So once you've sort of got a little bit of that basis down, and I suppose I'm setting the framework here of what you need to do, you really need to get in the mind of the person that you're going to be pitching this to. Then we actually need to start to write the pitch. Now, I think the best way to do it, I find with my copywriting, whenever I do copywriting, I make sure that I just, as soon as I'm ready to write, I write, and I write without editing. So I'll have my WordPad open, and I'll just free flow, and I'll just let it all come out. I'll write a heading, whatever rolls off the top of my head, and then I'll move into the story and explaining, and I'll go through the different components. But the lesson I want you to take here is just let it all flow out. Try not to edit too much, because if you really edit yourself, it slows that creativity down and can stop you. It's best to just let it all come out, then go back and do edit, rather than edit as you go. So the pitch, before I even get over to Flipper or anything else, what I like to do is open up a notepad and write down the copy that I'm going to use in my sales letter. I'll start off with a headline. Now, for me, the headline, it's all about grabbing attention, and you want to make sure that what is it that would stand out? I know Danny's got a tip that he gave me, which is the idea he'll jump over and he'll look through Flipper and see what stands out. And I think that's probably the best thing that you can do. Head over to Flipper, scan through the recently sold. It's always good to go to recently sold, because they're the ones that you're trying to replicate, the ones that actually sell. And look, what are the headlines that stand out for you? Everybody's got a little bit of different sort of methods the way that they do it, and it's really, there's no real exact science on how you can exactly split test what is the perfect formula for writing headlines. I know for me personally, I like to put stuff in there that really sticks out. Like I'll say, PR3, I'll put whatever the most bold thing is up front. I'll say PR3, well-established, profitable domain name in, whatever niche. Like I'll do something like that. I know Ryan does something a little bit different. He prefers to put the URL in. And I know, Danny, you do something even different. Like I know some of the headlines what are some of the headlines that you've written in the past that have been most successful?
Well, I find that people are actually looking to buy a business rather than a website. So not necessarily have to be in any particular market with your website. So I found that the most success I had was when I was writing headlines along the lines of, who else wants a business that's working? Who else would like to make some money? Sort of asking, it's classic copywriting, but you're actually asking the question that a person will answer with, oh, wow, me. And I find that grabs so much attention, rather than here's a website that's doing blah 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 blah. So you really want to get people, because when you look at, like Dave was saying in one of the previous modules, that there's something like 14,000 live auctions on at the one time. So you're really lost in that herd. You've got it, because people will just scan through new listings. Normally that's how most people work, and so you want to grab attention right off the go.
Yeah, so grabbing that attention all comes down to making sure, for me, I like to lead with my strongest puller. So really lead with whatever's really a strong point and that would grab your attention. The other thing as well, when I write my headlines, I make sure that I use all of the characters. So if you've been given a certain amount of space, which you are, and you get a certain number of characters, you might as well use it all. The more selling that you can get across in that headline, the better, in my opinion. So we'll provide some examples through to some of our previous auctions, and that's going to be a big component of this module. Even though we're going to go through and we'll talk about the different components of setting up the auction, we are going to show you some live examples, because really that's the best way. Then you can have a look at some of the completed auctions that we've done, and then you can sort of use that as inspiration. Then I also like to look at subheads. Now, you may or may not use subheadings in your Flipper auction, because you have the option to, I think it might even be a small fee to upgrade to be able to get a second line added underneath your headline, and that's the point at which I might put the URL in there. And you might add some additional information to draw out what's in the headline. So usually the headline captures the attention, then the subhead will sort of add a little bit of more supporting information that will make them curious enough to want to click through. When it comes to any of my headings, this is maybe a little bit of a formatting thing as well. For me, I like to use title case, which is where you capitalize the first letter of each word. I think that sort of stands out. It looks a little bit more professional, a little bit more polished, and that's what I want to get across. As I said, the biggest issue that people have when doing any business online is feeling like that they're potentially going to get ripped off and someone's going to take their money and run with it. So what it is that we're trying to do is make sure that we overcome those objections, whether we do it overtly or we do it covertly. And they might not really notice, the capitalization of each word, but when it all adds up to the entire picture, it puts across a very professional. It shows that you've got attention to detail. It shows, that you actually care, and that shows through to the auction, and then hopefully will ultimately lead to a higher price.